Okay, so I had to think about it a little bit because growing up in Illinois, most of the racism is not in your face. I know now because of the whole Obama presidency and then Trump right after, it's a little bit different now. But growing up, it was more closeted racism. So my first experience with racism that I remember is when I went to Unity Point. Because when we moved from Chicago, we lived in Evergreen Terrace because my parents were students. And so I went to Unity Point, and that's predominantly white. I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 other black girls in my class. And I'm playing on the playground, minding my business, because I've always been kind of quiet, stay to myself, really nice. And this white girl comes up and she's like, "You come from dirt." And then, pushes me. So then I started choking her, which may not be the answer, but I was a little kid. Like, it hurt my feelings, And I went home and I told my mom, because as a little kid, any little kid, you just want to have friends. Like, why are you treating me differently because I'm black, basically? And I was well aware that that was racism because my mom and father, are educators, so they raised me, to be aware and know what's going on in the world. So that was my first experience. And then, after that, it was more so dealing with teachers. Sometimes it seemed like some of the teachers in Southern Illinois really didn't want to be teachers. So while they might not have been calling me like a racial slur or anything like that, it was just the way that I was treated as a kid. And I was a good kid. I barely went to detention. Like, I really didn't get in trouble like that. So it really didn't make sense to me when they would be, rude or just downright disrespectful. And they felt like it was okay because you were a little kid. So I had a math teacher named Mr. Beasley, and he was extremely inflammatory. I mean, he used to start stuff with the guys in my class just to get them riled up and send them out his class. And my dad is a teacher, and he actually taught right next to him. So when he started with me, I went to my dad and I told him, "Hey, Mr. Beasley is being racist. He's messing with me. This, that, and the third." And so my dad pretty much had to intervene. And then I remember in 5th grade, I had excellent grades, and I still felt some type of way about my teacher, and I'm not the type to cry wolf. I know when somebody is treating me wrong, So my mom's always been the one more so to stand up for us. Like, we would go to my mom if we wanted somebody to stand up to us. So I remember her telling Miss Sobrick, like, my daughter says that she thinks you're racist because she has straight A's and you still focus in on her, And I didn't have any friends in that class. I was just kind of to myself, and she still would find a reason to say something to me, as well as the other black students. And so Spanish class in high school, freshman year, the teacher, Miss Alvarez, didn't like me and another girl named China. And we laughed and joked. We were kids. But it was just like the way that they went about it, like how they would talk to you, act like you're underneath them, things of that nature. And as an adult, just trying to, I'm not really like the type to be like, I'm not going to be your friend because you're white. So, working, and then they're like, "Let's drink together." And you're like, "Yeah, sure." Not knowing any better. And then as soon as they get drunk and a song comes on, now they're saying nigga freely. And that's super uncomfortable. I'm not the type of black person that's okay with that. So me, a 5'2" black woman, would be getting into it with big, tall white men because they wanted to, well, why can't we use it? It's in your music and this, that, and the third. So, it's never been like a extreme, like where I felt like my life was in danger. But most of my experiences have been passive aggressive. Also in the workplace, dealing with white women in this area, they are very combative and jealous hearted. One of my jobs, I got sent home because they went to the boss and was like, hey, she has on flip-flops. They weren't flip-flops, they were decorative sandals. But, you know, it's like, since he was a white man, he's gonna listen to them. And, you know, they were constantly going to him and complaining, and they never trained me on that job. It was a call center job, and one day they pulled me in and they was like, we're gonna let you go. And I'm like, why? Because you don't do this, you never trained me on none of that. The only reason that I realized that it was them is because my best friend at the time had gotten me the job. So she had already worked there for several years, but she's more so of like kind of plain, you know, really quiet, really not one to like draw attention. But me, on the other hand, I have a really big personality, and while I can be quiet and reserved, on the other hand, most people want to know what's on my mind for whatever reason. So she told me, like, they're zero in on you. Like, they're obsessed with you. Every time you come to work, they're trying to see if you have like an outfit violation, you know. And all I did was be nice, say hi to them. Most of the women worked in a different department. So it was very weird. A very weird experience, and that's not the only experience at work I've had, but that's the only time it was actually confirmed that it wasn't just, you know, my mind, you know, because as a Black person, because we go through these things, we develop PTSD, so it kind of programs us to always be on high alert. So people say we're playing the race card, but we're really not. We just are programmed from trauma to think, you know, to be on high alert, basically. So that was the first time that I actually was able to confirm that that's what's going on, especially because of how he fired me. And even though I mentioned like, hey, you never trained me, because he didn't care. So well, with my son, he has a mom that he can call. He doesn't have to always defend himself, because I feel like Black men are in that position where they're going to be demonized however they react. If you react angry, now you're an angry Black man. If you beat somebody up, now you're violent, so on and so forth. So, I mean, I'm going to teach him to protect himself. Like, I feel like some Black men have kind of become subservient as to not shake up, you know, the status quo. So I don't want to raise a son like that. So I'm not saying I always want him to run to me, but I mean, obviously he's going to be well educated and well versed on Black history all the way up until when he was born. And then, you know, after that, that's on him, because I can't force him to be just like me. But I highly, he's only 2, so, but I highly doubt that he's not gonna be, because me and his dad are both very militant, for lack of a better term. So, I mean, he'll be educated on things, and but when it comes to like him experiencing racism, especially in school, because that is the main problem, I'm gonna be right there every step of the way. He's extremely smart, so they can't pull the games of we're gonna put him in resources. You know what I'm saying? They can't really do that with my child. But yeah, when it comes to these teachers and how they handle them, I'm gonna have a close eye on them, because I know they even tried to get started with my brother, and he's 2 years older than me, and he's Mr. All-American. He played all these sports and got all these good grades and got a scholarship, and now he's a food scientist, but they still would try to focus in on him, you know, because he didn't dress like Urkel. He dressed like somebody urban, you know what I'm saying, somebody from the hood. So, you know, I feel like as parents, we just have to teach our children so that they know the passive aggressive racism that happens. So, because some people are genuinely either brainwashed, or they're just not simply aware. You know what? That's a deep question, and my answer some people might not like, but I honestly don't think that this is ever going to end, only because I think it's a heart issue. It's about your heart. If you and your family have a propensity to be evil, somebody protesting in front of your business is not going to change. You might lose your business, but you're still going to be at home being that hateful, evil person, raising your kids to be hateful and evil, and then it just keeps going down generations. It takes for really the other side to have a change of heart. And I don't mean to say the other side like it's them versus us, but that's literally how it feels. I think that people need to be real with themselves and stop being delusional. Even some of the people that help us, even some of our allies, are detrimental to black people. People disrespect black women because we are both women and black. How will we stop misogyny? We really can't. All we can do is educate the future generations and try to get in the hearts of people that are evil, you know, and I don't think we should do that by kumbaya. Our ancestors tried that. The first civil rights movement, they tried to be peaceful. Even though Malcolm X was talking about being violent, they weren't being violent. They were protecting their neighborhoods at most from, you know, other ignorant black people or race like the Klan and stuff like that. But they weren't going around shooting people. So I think that as a race, white people and, you know, any other race that's racist towards us, they need to be real with themselves and examine their hearts, you know, unless God says racism disappears. I don't see that happening. Honestly, I think people are naive to think that it's gonna magically change. That's why I say even our allies, some of our allies can be problematic because they'll do things like wanting to put themselves out in the forefront, and that's not right because this is our movement and it's always going to be our movement. So if you think that you can infiltrate your way into something and take over so you can be Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as a white man, no, it's not going to happen. We're never going to get behind that. So I just think, honestly, black people need to stop being so nice. And I'm not saying we need to go around killing people, but we need to stop being we need to be protective of ourselves. We need to start being nice to each other. We need to start loving on each other, and then we can heal. We need to heal ourselves and not focus on the other side because that's on them, you know, and it's gonna take the allies that aren't in this for ill intent to step up and bridge the gap. So, I mean, that's the only way it really can get better is to have allies, but the allies have to stay in line. They have to check themselves. They got to step back. They have to uplift black women specifically, the youth specifically, black men that want to step up and lead. If they need your help, we need you. But other than that, all I can do is pray.